Good afternoon. You are in time for the Lunchtime News. A very warm welcome to the broadcast. My name is Irene Mchuma Odem. On sign language interpretation, we have Byron Abuli. It is the 29th day in the month of September 2023. UDA party is for the first time holding its meeting at the Bomas of Kenya. We'll be crossing over live in a brief. Let's interact on all our social media platforms at KBC Channel 1. All right, we begin from the Bomas of Kenya, where the United Democratic Party is holding its inaugural meeting, one that is bringing together delegates from the party and also guests. This, as President William Ruto is expected to officiate the event this afternoon. The pictures that we are bringing on your screen are coming live from the Bomas of Kenya, and right now I do understand a number of delegates are making their way to the Bomas of Kenya, and will be crossing over live in a brief. Now, in other news making headlines this afternoon, residents of Kibish village in Turkana County are living in fear due to an outbreak of a disease which they say is waterborne. The disease is believed to be passed from animals to human beings due to sharing of water drawn from rivers. The disease is characterized by fever, diarrhea, and vomiting.
While confirming the incident, the area's county commissioner said the specimens from the patients and water samples have been taken to Lord Hospital for testing and diagnosis.
Even for those women who are pregnant, we have a lot of miscarriages on this side because they cannot be able to access.
Dogs and the cattle and the human beings are bathing from the same source, and they are drinking water from the same source. So we are suspecting contact dermatitis. Although for further analysis, we'll be sending the sample for analysis in the laboratory, and then we'll get further guidance in helping the community to know the cause of the disease.
The outbreak adds another burden to an already strained population who have to walk for kilometers in search of pasture, water, food, and medication.
Sina hospitali ya sublocation yangu, sina shule, sina maji, sina network.
Poor road, there's no infrastructure. The other thing is topographical issues.
The residents are now calling upon the county government and the national government to intervene on the matter, noting that the projected El Nino rains might escalate the outbreak. Parsai Frederick reporting for Lunchtime News.
A 40-year-old woman is fighting for her life at Mandera Referral Hospital after she was shot by unknown assailants in Sala area, Mandera County. The woman is reported to have been fetching water from River Dawa, which borders Ethiopia, when unknown gunmen opened fire indiscriminately, leaving her with gunshot wounds. Mandera East lawmaker Hussein Waitan has called on security agencies to act swiftly to ensure the perpetrators are brought to book. A women's peace organization in the county has decried frequent attacks, calling on the government to beef up security and address the problem of attacks and retaliatory attacks. Police say they are actively pursuing the perpetrators, though no arrests have been made.
Ile vita ambayo inatendeka ni kijana na mzee anaanza hiyo vita, na watoto na wamama ndio wanamalizika na njaa na njaa na ugonjwa pia iko zaidi.
Iko watoto wanafanya mitihani kama Ramo Girls, wasichana juzi wametoroka, hakuna msichana iko kwa hiyo shule. Tafadhali sana tungeomba serikali kuu na serikali ya county waingilie kati.
We want to have a county that is peaceful, that is development conscious, not a county that is always, having this kind of conflicts. We cannot continue this way. This will really completely make us stop our development. It has really affected us in the last few weeks, and we cannot accept to continue with it. Anybody who suffered in the hands of these kind of conflicts, that is an act Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, has meant to happen. We cannot avoid. We expect others to hold and not to retaliate.
All right, the United Democratic Alliance Party is holding its first National Governing Council at the Bomas of Kenya. This is one of a kind that President William Ruto is expected to officiate the event this afternoon. Let's cross over and listen in to what is happening at the Bomas of Kenya.
That your victory was declared on this podium amidst
Our apologies for that technical hitch. We'll be crossing over live again to the Bomas of Kenya. This as UDA is holding its first National Governing Council meeting at the Bomas of Kenya. Now to other news. This afternoon, the county government of Kilifi, in collaboration with other county stakeholders, have begun putting in place measures to mitigate the effects of El Nino in the county. Area Governor Gideon Mung'aro, while addressing residents during an environment conservation event, said the county will put in place measures and a response emergency center to deal with any disasters.
Cha kudili na majanga, moja ikiwa ni kujipanga vile tutaweza kudhibiti El Nino, hasa wale wanaoishi kando ya mto kama kule Galana.
4 main pillars that we are going to work in. One is mangrove restoration, forestry conservation, and then also looking at seaweed farming. And in all these things, we would like to look at the gender so that women and young girls benefit from the project.
Kilifi Governor Gideon Mung'aro has banned allocation of huge amounts of funds towards trainings and project-related meetings in a bid to channel the funds towards development projects. This he was speaking during the official launch of the Conservation and Sustainable Management of Marine and Coastal Ecosystem Projects funded by Plan International. Mung'aro said funds were being wasted on unnecessary training and meetings in which individuals benefit from allowances and per diems, and the information is rarely passed on to their colleagues. At the same time, he urged donor organizations to minimize the funds spent towards training and meetings. The project funded by Plan International is aimed at addressing challenges facing coastal and marine ecosystems in Kwale and Kilifi counties.
Sisi kama jamii tumefundishwa mambo mingi toka uhuru wa nchi. Kwa hivyo masuala ya pesa zetu nyingi kutumia kwa mafunzo tena tumekataa. Tunataka pesa ziende kwa mama, kwa kijana, wafanye maendeleo yale ambayo tunataka. Hata kaunti ina mtindo pia. Wameambiwa mama wafuge kuku. Nasikia mikutano imetumia milioni 30. Nani anataka kufundishwa kufuga kuku hapa? Kuku ni wishwa, nyumba ya kuku na kuku wenyewe. Na mwachane na story ya hii training yenu hivi. Kwa hivyo sisi tunataka tutumie pesa yetu kwa kufaidi watu wetu. Sio kila siku madarasani na kusoma ambao hayaishi. Kwa hivyo tunataka masomo kidogo tu plan. Masomo kidogo, you take few women, mwafundishe wakuwe TOTs, kama mama ni 5 wa Kaloleni, wengine wakafundishe wenzao mashinani. Hiyo pesa nyingine tuweke kwa miradi. Hiyo peke yake ndio utaona maendeleo. Lakini hapa utasikia kwa county kila siku ni mikutano. Wiki ijayo mtacheka, maana hiyo mikutano yote nitafunga kwa hii county. Hakuna mikutano miezi 6 ijayo. Kila mtu aende afanye kazi. Kila siku ni mikutano na watu kujiandikia allowance. 500, mtu wa 600, mtu ameenda Malindi fanya mkutano ziwe 1500, ameenda mtu hapa. Hii pesa yote tunataka tupeleke kwa wananchi, na ndio maana kila mtu lazima awajibike.
Teenage girls have been cautioned against abusing emergency contraceptives. Lurambi Sub-County Sexual, Gender and Reproductive Health Coordinator Esther Mboya say frequent use of e-pills introduces new hormones in the body which can cause blood clots due to prolonged abuse. The government has been urged to not only allow dispensing of the commodity through regulated facilities where girls can be trained on its use. Parents have also been urged to engage their teenage girls on sexual and reproductive health matters at an early stage.
Kuna hii njia ambayo inaitwa e-pill ambayo inapatikana kwa urahisi sana kwa chemist. Ni maajabu ni kwamba hata zimefika kwa kiosks na wasichana wetu wameifanya kuwa kila Ijumaa wananunua. Naomba tuelewe kwamba e-pill inatakana itumike kama ni mara mingi sana 6 months apart.
Today we are thankful even to our partners IPAS. They made sure they brought the information on the contraceptives, that is the power of options. Even the deaf community, they have options.
My message to the Minister for Health, you need to plan. Even the health, the services provided in their health, they should learn sign language so that they can accommodate the deaf community when they come for their services.
Residents of Makalda in Nyatike sub-county have gone to court to protest the gazettement of 61,165 acres of land in their area, saying the land is forest land. The petition filed at the Migori Law Court outlines 8 specific requests for the court's consideration. Among the prayers to the court is the declaration affirming the legal entitlement of those residing in Makalda, Kanyarwanda Ward, Kalangi sublocation with land parcel number Muhurube Makalda 498.
We saw demand and we saw declare that we are going to fight for our land. We are going to petition the relevant government bodies. We are peace-loving people. We don't want to cause mayhem and we don't want to cause unnecessary drama. We are here at Migori High Court today to file a petition officially, and we are petitioning even the Cabinet Secretary of Environment, Climate Change, and what else? And Forestry, Madam Soipan Tuya, to consider this Gazette notice and to check if it is indeed a forest. We are going to involve everyone, and we are calling upon human rights watchdogs. We are calling on the Kenya National Human Rights Commission. We are calling on the National Human Rights Commission. We are calling on Amnesty International. We are calling on all players that can come to assist the residents of Makalda preserve their ancestral land.
So we are here to follow the due process and the due procedure so that we can have that one degazetted. This land belongs to the government, but the government is ourselves. We have been staying here, we were born here, our fathers were born there.
The government has been challenged to embrace evidence-based research as part of policy making towards the realization of the bottom-up economic model. Kenya Nutritionists and Dietitians Institute CEO Dr. David Okeo said scientists have invested heavily in research, especially in agriculture, which, if translated to policy, will impact greatly on food security. Speaking during the closing of the 3rd International Nutrition and Dietitians Conference, Dr. Okeo implored policymakers to work with scientists to find solutions to boost food security to Kenyans by incorporating indigenous or traditional foods in the country's food systems.
So many researches are being conducted at institutional level, but most of them have not been used quite a lot within the policy making framework. And so our output here is that we shall come up with a summarized resolution which we have made both scientifically and also based on discussions and observations, and make a very strong statement to the country on matters of policy.
We know that many communities are struggling with the protein food sources, and insects has proven that they are better food sources for protein. There are better food sources for minerals. They are easily accessible and they can be easily produced. However, the fact that it has not been incorporated into the formal food system, insects have only been consumed by isolated communities within the country.
Medics and researchers are urging Africa to begin embracing vaccines in disease prevention and control. The director of the Center for Travel Medicine and Tropical Diseases at Sheba Medical Center in Israel, Professor Eyal Leshem, says Africa is registering an increase in deaths that could be prevented through the administration of vaccines. Judith Akolo has the details.
While the disease burden in Africa continues to rise, deaths can be prevented through access and administration of life-saving vaccines. However, the director of the Center for Travel Medicine and Tropical Diseases at Sheba Medical Center in Israel, Professor Eyal Leshem, says deaths due to respiratory infections like pneumonia can be prevented through jabs. Yet, over 488 million cases of pneumonia are recorded annually, resulting in 2.4 million deaths, mainly in developing countries.
And if we look at the range of pathogens causing respiratory infectious disease, we see that almost all of them are vaccine preventable through vaccines that are readily available and incorporated into the EPI.
The clinical associate professor at Tel Aviv University School of Medicine in Israel says 15,000 children under the age of 5 in Africa die from preventable diseases due to lack of access to vaccines.
In 2019, there were 5.3 million deaths of children aged under 5 years, 15,000 deaths every day.
He notes that diseases cause morbidity and mortality, leading to loss of earnings and impacting on the general economies of most developing countries. Professor Leshem, who spoke during the second Africa Health Harm Reduction Conference in Marrakesh, Morocco, is calling on the global community to ensure access to vaccines for developing countries, noting it is a global moral obligation.
Is the responsibility of the global community, not just of African countries, to make sure that access to new vaccines and new medical technologies is equitable and that vaccines are distributed to where they are most needed in the high mortality, low resource settings.
Diarrhea, malaria, and pneumonia are some of the health risks affecting children under the age of 5 in Africa and cause the highest incidence of mortality. Judith Akolo, Marrakesh, Morocco.
Thank you, Akolo, for that report. Now, residents of Gatundu South and Kiambu County are up in arms over an alarming rise of witch doctors in the county, whom they blame for mysterious diseases afflicting residents and increased deaths in the area. Recent deaths of 4 persons from Wamwangi village, where the doctors have mounted tons of posters, have seen the Kikuyu Council of Elders ban the witches from any further activities in the area, saying they are causing harm to the community. The elders have conducted a special cleansing ceremony.
Tulitoa zile vibao za waganga sababu zimewekwa kutoka huko karibu Gatei mpaka Wamwangi. Sasa tukaamua hakuna kitu ambacho tutabakisha kwa sababu uganga sisi hatutaki hapa. Wakati tunaweza kuona hizi vibao tukasema afadhali tuondoe na sisi tuwe tunaomba Mungu, sababu mambo ya waganga hapa sisi tukizaliwa hatukuwa tunajua mambo ya waganga. Sasa ndio tunaona hapa, na hapa ni risafu. Hizi vibao ukienda Nairobi ni mingi sana, lakini usilete hapa risafu. Na nawahimiza wazee wote wa miaki, kama hizi vibao wanasipata kwao, waenda watoe. Hata serikali itakuwa nyuma yao.
Leo ndio tumesema tutasafisha hii mtaa yote, ndio maneno yetu ikuwe vizuri, ndio watoto wetu waendelee, ndio wake zetu waendelee, ndio hata sisi tukienda kuwatafutia chakula tunaenda bila kukua na woga hata kidogo.
Maji, lazima wakuwe na maji, lazima wakuwe na maziwa.
na wakuwe na chumvi na tena wakuwe na pombe ya wao kujitakasa. Already tumezika watu kama 4 na kuna mwingine hapa ng'ambo tunaelekea kumuzika kesho. Tena tumeona watoto wetu wanaishi wakiwa na uchafu kwa sababu ya pombe. Hii pombe hatumtaki hapa tena, tunataka iishe.
Ngai wakire nyaga wakire biro iro wakiaja he kare makare thogo na muto wa matura maitu na.
The national government, in collaboration with Kajiado County, have launched a farmer census exercise. The move is aimed at equipping farmers with modern farming skills amid tough economic times and unpredictable weather patterns. Speaking during a training exercise of field officers, Kajiado County Governor Joseph Olelenku urged livestock and crop farmers to adopt climate resilience practices in the wake of climate change. Similar sentiments were echoed by Trade and Industrialization Principal Secretary Juma Mukwana.
80% tuna import, Kenya tunatengeneza 20% pekee. So kama wewe utanunua China, ni wa China na Afrika. So kwa hii serikali hii tunasema tunataka tutengeneze vitu zetu nyumbani. Hii Nairobi hii sisi wenye tunakaa hapo ni watu milioni 5 wenye hawana shamba. Shamba yao ni Quickmart. Shamba yao ni Naivas, si ndio? 1 milioni 5 kwa siku wanatumia 1 million shillings kwa chakula.
Na ningependa kuwaomba wananchi wapendwa, ndugu wana Kajiado, wakulima wetu, hawa enumerators ni watu wametumwa na serikali, ni kama tu maofisa wa serikali wanafanya kazi ya serikali, na tunampongeza Rais Ruto kwa hii maneno ya bottoms up, kwamba tunaanza kwa mwananchi ya kawaida huko chini. Wale wetu walikataa kusajiliwa hapo awali kwa sababu ya maneno ya propaganda na porojo, walikosa mbolea ambayo iko subsidized na serikali. Kuna misaada mingi, kuna njia nyingi serikali inawapanga ili kusaidia katika kutoa katikati yetu middlemen ambayo wanazuia biashara zetu.
Has been challenged to strengthen its efforts in combating drug usage across the country, particularly with the increasing popularity of drugs disguised as nicotine pouches and electronic cigarettes. Joel Gitali, who serves as the chairperson of the Kenya Tobacco Control Alliance, says there is need for vigilance in the implementation of tobacco control laws. The surge in drug misuse among Kenya's youth has resulted in school dropouts, early pregnancies, among other vices.
Shurutishwa zisiwe katika nchi hii itaweza kutusaidia kupunguza kiwango cha watoto ambao wanajihusisha kwa madharati na kiwango.
Tobacco control laws must be enforced in full. We need to ban novel products and our parliament must listen to us.
Glad you're watching the Lunchtime News. We are taking our first commercial break. When we return, we'll be talking matters cybersecurity. Stay with us.
Government of Turkana welcomes you to the Ehale Center in Lodo Town for the 7th edition of the Turkana Cultural and Tourism Festival. From 12th to the 14th of October 2023. Come, experience the origin of mankind with its unmatched beauty, from the beaches of Lake Turkana to the oil wells of Lokichar. Live on Channel 1, Radio Taifa and KBC Turkana Service.
mara nyingine katika senti G wanasema zenjie. Senjia.
Swali kwao ni, je, wamepanda pantosha ili kuvuna pantwisha?
Kivazi safi valia, wala usifanye hofu, na viatu kujivia, uvae kikamilifu.
Zitaje changamoto mbili za matumizi ya fasihi simulizi. Athari ya lugha mama ina nini?
Baadhi ya kabila zingine hutatanisha baina ya tha na dha, ama la na ra.
Ameangukia mbuzi.
Tuna mbuzi, mnyama, na mbuzi ya kwanza itakuwa mnyama.
Ngeli gani?
Ngeli ya awa. Mbuzi wa pili ni mbuzi, kifaa cha kukunia nazi.
This week on What's in Your Kitchen, Chef Dennis makes for us mutton rogan josh. Santi.
Karibu sana.
I've got all my ingredients for the mutton rogan josh, courtesy of our guest cook, Dennis. Aya. Crushed methi seeds. Kila siku soma kitu mpya. Mchele wetu iko sawa. Hii iko sawa. Tumalize.
Sasa ni kwenda tukule. Lakini hauendi.
Mimi siendi.
Hauendi.
Hiyo tutaongea kwa meza kwanza.
Sawa.
Watching the Lunchtime News. Welcome back. Time for business news. And this afternoon, we are getting into the interactive segment. We're going to deal with cybersecurity matters. On set is Matthew Fari from Cyfly in a company that deals with cybersecurity, and also we are having Akash Desai, one of the persons that also has more knowledge on security matters from Cyfly. All right, to kick us off, welcome on set.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having us.
It's a very interesting industry, cybersecurity, and it has its own challenges. It has its own preferences. Where would you put Kenya in handling cybersecurity?
Yeah, cybersecurity is certainly has more drama than Hollywood. But Kenya is just like a lot of countries, right? Kenya has made some great advances. I think you guys are, when it comes to digital transformation, you guys are a gateway to the rest of Africa, right? You're at the forefront. That said, I think there's a lot of work to be done as well, right? And this is true across the globe, including our home country of the United States. One of the areas, there's a lot of great plans that have been put in place by the President's office. So that's wonderful to see. I think the bigger dynamic that's hard for everyone is changing society's values so that cybersecurity becomes is a concern for everyone, private and public sector.
Thank you, Akash. Matthew, if I get to you, the cyberspace is most advanced and very lucrative, especially also in Kenya, and that's why you would prefer to get these opportunities in the country. But how would you look at the growth of the sector in Kenya?
Yeah, the growth of the sector in Kenya is not that different from the growth of the sector in the rest of the world, where the speed and the rapid growth of cybersecurity means that we've got so much to prepare ourselves for, and the rate of education needs to keep up with the rate of the technology. So the fact, as Akash said, the fact that we've got plans in place and President Ruto's preparedness is something that we can really get behind through our technological advances. One of the things that really makes Cyfly a very unique player here is that we don't have to come in with demands that things must be done a certain way. We may be experts in cybersecurity, but Kenya knows Kenya. So we can really get here. We've got a team here that we're working with already. We've been with them for a year, we can take the education that we've learned from them, we can offer the education that we have from the rest of our efforts around the world, and really help the technology that we've innovated on apply to how Kenya can strengthen their cyber resilience.
If I can add to that really quick, you make a great point, Matt. I think one of the biggest things that Kenya can do to safeguard the growth of your, technology sector is really investing in the young people that are already participating in that sector, right? So I'll give you an example, a personal example. But today in Kenya, I think I read that there's a deficit of about 20 to 40,000 jobs, right? Cybersecurity jobs that are not being met. In the United States, that's 400,000. So it's a global problem. But I think what we have seen of our Kenyan employees, and we're relatively new. It's 12 months. We work with a local partner called Inua AI that helps us manage our employees here. But together, what I think have done that I think is a good example for other companies here to do is really take the technologies and the know-how that's coming out of the US with companies like ours that are doing innovative things in cybersecurity, and let that knowledge be translated here to individuals. So now whether they work for us or they move on, they're taking that knowledge and it's becoming a part of the company or the country's collective.
I do understand that you're working with a partnership with a Kenyan-based company, Inua AI, and you're maximizing on the human resource. Why Kenya, not any other country?
Well, so multiple things that I think are wonderful about Kenya. Number one is wonderful English-speaking country, right? So that's a check. The students that we work with, the young people, extremely talented. They understand technology fundamentally. So we've had some phenomenal people working for us here, best of the best. I think where the other big thing has nothing to do with technical ability. It has everything to do with mindset. And what we have noticed is the Kenyan young people, the team that works with us, they're naturally hungry for knowledge. They're very passionate, and they just want to do better. They're always thinking one step ahead. That's what I think makes a great sector.
Talking about we just want to do better, maybe I direct this to Matthew. We have had cyber attacks, not only in Kenya. Where are the gaps?
Yeah, it's a great question. So we read up since we were visiting here. I think the electronic space, the shift for Kenya to move things. I think we're north of 5,000 services that the Kenyan government is moving into the cyberspace realm. And the reason that ends up becoming so critical for us, and to really pull from some of what Akash said, is that means that it impacts the citizens of Kenya, the people of Kenya. So for us in the United States, if my Venmo payment system goes down, I use Apple Pay or I use a credit card. For many people in Kenya, if M-Pesa goes down, I can't buy food or I can't pay for my rides. So it's the gaps end up becoming really forefront in the foundation of cybersecurity culture, which is make sure we have our risk assessment and risk management practices, cybersecurity awareness training, make sure that it's a technology-led growth. We're always going to need the experts and the people behind it, but we need to make sure that, as I said before, the rate at which this moves, you need to supplement the people resources with the technology so we can become more efficient and more effective at every minute that somebody's spending on cybersecurity efforts.
But at least we have some lessons borrowed from there. This even as Kenya has adopted various policies and also operational and administrative initiatives. But when you look at it from the Kenyan perspective and also Africa as a continent, what are these lessons that we can borrow from the US in line with the legal gaps that we have?
Yeah, I think the one area is really having a national standard for cybersecurity, and it can be nuanced, right? So very sophisticated organizations that are large have a different criteria, right? And then your small businesses have a different criteria. But I think there needs to be a shared understanding of what good enough is.
All right. Besides that, we talk about the e-services, and this one is specifically for government and businesses that have increased in Kenya to up to around 5,000. But then we have the downsides, and we need to address them. From where you sit as IT experts, what advice would you give out?
I think two things that I would say. Number one is, this is normal, right? Kenya is very, very strong in digital transformation. I mean, you're digitizing a lot of things. That increases your threat surface, right? So I think it's absolutely critical to invest in detection and respond capabilities when it comes to cybersecurity. It's realizing that because things get so complex, the bad guys are going to get in somehow. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when it's going to happen, right? So that shouldn't strike fear in you. You should just go ahead and think about how you're going to act on that. One of the things that's been great about President Ruto's cybersecurity plan is, he makes mention of funding a national security operations center and CSOCs. Well, that's great, right? Because what you're doing is you're saying we're going to put more security guards in front of our fences and take action when needed.
Thank you. Great lessons tomorrow from Cyfler, and also I believe the time you've been in the country you've learned 1, 2, 3, and that's why you're maximizing the human resource in Kenya. Time is not on our side, but looking forward to have you again. Thank you for your time this afternoon. That is the Cyfler Matthew from Cyfler, and also Akash from Cyfler talking to us about cybersecurity. They are IT experts with Cyfler, a company that deals with matters technology. Now, in other news this afternoon, the African Guarantee Fund has bolstered CDN Bank's lending for small businesses with a focus on women entrepreneurs. Under the risk-sharing guarantee facility, CDN Bank plans to scale up its lending to small businesses with women-led businesses, earmarked at least 30% of the amounts.
75% of farmers in Kenya are women. So what does that mean? Every time you see a food in your plate, you know that beyond that food, 3/4 were women. Now, when you look at the people who own lands in Kenya, is 1% of women own land. The agricultural line, only 1% of land ownership goes to women. That's what we want to change, because they cannot be 75% of the workers and they only own 1% of the land. And our program is about managing this kind of disparity.
One of the areas that we have successfully done is to empower women managed businesses. And this guarantee, one of the aspects of it is to ensure that the women-led SME businesses get better support, which has worked well for us, and that supports women businesses to the tune of 75%. And the partnership between us and African Guarantee Fund helped SMEs to ensure that they can access credit in a much better way without necessarily focusing on security and collaterals. And even women-led businesses even enjoy better support, because now all they need to focus is on 25%, but 75% is covered.
Concerted efforts and action is needed to empower farmers in the larger Western Kenya region, reverse dwindling yields occasioned by high soil acidity. A soil testing campaign conducted in 8 Western Kenya counties found that 35% of the sampled soils in the area are acidic.
According to the Kenya Crops and Dairy Market Systems, which is a USAID-funded project, a farmer should reap up to 30 bags of maize from an acre. However, this is not the case in Western Kenya due to the high soil acidity levels.
Factors that contribute to soil acidity is continuous use of single fertilizers, for instance. And of course, this area is a high rainfall area. And the parent rock also contributes a lot in terms of the kind of soils that are in this region.
To reverse the worrying trend, concerted efforts and action are needed to correct status by liming the soil.
We did demonstrate from our intervention that by doing soil amendment practices like application of lime and doing correct good agricultural practices, farmers are able to increase their yield, and ideally some got even 25 bags per acre by virtue of using appropriate lime and also using appropriate fertilizers.
An extensive soil testing campaign conducted in 8 western Kenya counties revealed that soil is overly acidic.
We've highlighted key deficiencies in major nutrients, NPK. We have also seen significant deficiencies in sulfur and also the micronutrients, copper and zinc.
The presentation in this meeting today is a highlight and is going to lead us into a way forward to advise our farmers on the right fertilizer and the right soil practices to carry out.
Farmers in the region have equally been challenged to work closely with agrovets for continuous soil testing. For Channel 1 from Kisumu County, I am Wycliffe Okech.
Core inflation in Japan's capital slowed in September for the third straight month, mainly on falling fuel costs, suggesting that cost-push pressures are starting to peak in a relief for the fragile economic recovery. Consumer sentiment soared in September as many households have yet to see wages increase enough to offset rising living costs.
The Tokyo Core Consumer Price Index, which excludes volatile fresh food but includes fuel costs, rose 2.5% in September from a year earlier, against a median market forecast for a 2.6% gain. It slowed from a 2.8% increase in August, but exceeded the Bank of Japan's 2% target for the 16th straight month. A spike in global commodity prices last year drove many Japanese companies to shed their aversion to price hikes and pass on higher costs to households, keeping inflation above the Bank of Japan's target for longer than policymakers initially expected. The inflation overshoot led the Bank of Japan to make modest tweaks to its bond yield control policy last month, a move investors saw as a shift away from decades of ultra-loose monetary policy. Elsewhere, Britain's economic performance since the start of the COVID-19 pandemic has been stronger than previously thought, with faster growth than Germany or France. Britain's economy in the second quarter of 2023 was 1.8% larger than in the final quarter of 2019, the last full quarter before start of COVID-19 pandemic. Britain's growth of 1.8% over the period exceeds growth of 1.7% in France and 0.2% in Germany, but trails far behind the 6.1% expansion seen in the United States and is also weaker than in Japan, Italy or Canada. The Bank of England has raised interest rates 14 times since December 2021 to tame soaring inflation, before unexpectedly keeping them unchanged last week at a 15-year high of 5.25%. Finally, China's supply chain industry has made remarkable progress in innovation and application, with the flexibility and resilience of the supply chains in the manufacturing sector increasing rapidly in the past few years. 8 organizations, including the Ministry of Commerce and the Ministry of Industry and Information Technology, have identified 2 batches of 25 national demonstration cities and 200 demonstration enterprises for supply chain innovation and application, vigorously promoting the innovative development of China's supply chains. Enterprises are speeding up the building of supply chain systems in the 3 key fields of agriculture, manufacturing and circulation industries, both at home and abroad. As a result, new business patterns and new models emerged continuously. Firdaus Omar for Lunchtime News.
The borders back home, the government is reviewing taxation for export processing zones and special economic zones to attract more investments. Investments Principal Secretary Abu Bakar Hassan says the amendments target to extend tax breaks to export processing zones and special economic zones to attract additional foreign direct investments.
The changes in the Income Tax Bill 2018 abolish tax holidays extended to farms in export processing zones and special economic zones. Removal of the tax breaks so farms pay corporate income tax at the rate of 10% in the first 10 years. The rate is expected to rise to 15% in the next 20 years, after which taxes on profit made by corporations will revert to the normal rate of 30%. And now, the government is reviewing the tax regime for special economic zones and reintroducing tax holidays to firms operating within such zones.
Because we provide you with favorable and the most competitive tax regime in Africa, I believe so.
The government plans to amend the employment laws to allow for alternative dispute resolutions in special economic zones.
On foreign investment, that among foreign investors identified it as an investment barrier to investment. And what we have done in the Finance Act of 2023, we have reduced the foreign ownership barrier in the pension administrators sector. We have also reduced the ownership requirement, local ownership requirement in the ICT sector, and now we are working on the the engineering sector and the insurance sector, where there is a cap on foreign ownership.
Benson Droba reporting for Lunchtime News.
Kisumu County is fast becoming a magnet for real estate investment in the country. The county has witnessed a sharp spike in the number of multi-billion shillings investments in affordable housing projects. Apart from the state-backed affordable houses, private investors are also lining up to tap the growing demand for housing units. Kisumu County Deputy Governor Matthew Owili says the county has reformed its investment policies to make the area conducive for investment.
A group of Kenyans in the diaspora are the latest to eye investment in the Lake City County with a 1 billion shillings pass. Operating under Wema Magharibi, the group has already commenced the construction of affordable apartment units on the outskirts of Kisumu County.
This project is in the confines of what I would call a smart building. Let's see money from those projects I diversify to manufacturing, agribusiness, and create more opportunities. I thank you.
It is estimated that Kenyans in the diaspora remittance into the country hit a record 4 billion mark, making the highest Kenyan's foreign exchange earner. Kisumu County Deputy Governor Dr. Matthew Owili says the county lacks proper housing facilities for its bulging staff, and it was time for private investors to take up the challenge and complement the government's affordable housing project.
Now, this housing project, ladies and gentlemen, speaks to Kisumu's openness to doing business and attracting investments. I mean, if that enabling environment was not created, I'm sure this team would not be here today.
So far, the government is in the process of constructing 3,000 affordable units in Kisumu County. Owili spoke during the commissioning of affordable apartments in Kisumu County owned by Wema Magharibi Group Limited. Achala Simon, Lunchtime News.
Across the borders in the world of local headlines, at least 50 people have been killed and more than 50 others injured in an explosion in Pakistan. The blast happened near a mosque in the southwestern province of Balochistan on Friday as people gathered to celebrate the birth of Prophet Muhammad. The police suspect it was a suicide attack targeted at the religious gathering in Mustang City. This and more stories in news-making headlines across the globe.
The blast, which police suspect was targeted at the religious gathering in Mustang City, has led to the death of 50 people, with a similar number injured. Officials have declared a state of emergency. The casualties are being transported to 2 hospitals. Elsewhere, the U.S. Congress faces a deadline of midnight Saturday to pass a new budget before thousands of federal employees are placed on unpaid leave. The Senate has forged ahead with plans for a temporary funding agreement, which House Republicans will oppose. The Senate overwhelmingly passed a procedural vote on a short-term funding bill that has bipartisan support in the chamber. The bill would avoid a government shutdown until 17th of November, giving Congress more time to reach a deal on a longer-term budget. Finally, Russian President Vladimir Putin has met with Andrei Troshev, a former aide of late Wagner chief Yevgeny Prigozhin, who was killed in a plane crash in August. His death came 2 months after Wagner troops briefly marched on Moscow.
Glad you're watching the Lunchtime News. We are taking a breather. We'll be back with more news, and this will be sports. Stay with us.
That my own brother is plotting to destroy my marriage.
If Danielle went off with another woman, I have no doubts that it was Isabel. If you don't believe me, then call her.
One, please help me.
Danielle!
Please help me. We need to get into the clinic right away.
What happened to you?
No. Sergio could die at any moment, and all you can do is think about yourself. Always yourself.
Then it was really true.
My anybody's losing his mind because of you, woman. Because if things go wrong, all of us will end up witnessing the worst of the worst.
My mom first introduced me to tennis, and I really got inspired, and that's why I wanted to pursue tennis as a career.
Today we're going to make fried plantains with the sauce. This is such a yummy recipe, so you need to know how to make them.
I'm going to teach you how to make a spooky bat for the Halloween.
So our story has the title, Kemunto Say Ah. I wonder why she needs to say Ah.
Divide and conquer.
Do you think Alice can work against the father?
If you play your cards wrong, you'll be forced to carry whatever burden J&J will be turned into.
George.
Flowers and cards can be replaced.
So I came here to report harassment.
How much did he offer you?
So I feel insulted.
He's going to hurt her emotionally.
But she'll be richer than the rest of her age mates.
Alice, nitatoa drama huko tupu.
Drama za nini sasa?
Have your lawyer call my lawyer before the day ends.
He will. No one beat the Kaikaras in a court process. Unataka niambie baba yako unajaribu kumsabotage?
You can't eat your cake and have it too. Excuse me.
We're just having a conversation and listening to this amazing testimony. And you know, around 40% of the people in jail, by the way, are very innocent. Amesema inaitwa ndonyo. Mtu yote anaweza ingia. Kitu yote inaweza tendeka. Mimi nishailala remand. Ilikuwa pia wakati wa COVID. Tulishikwa masaa ilikuwa imepita.
Umefanya nikae miaka mitatu jana. Kwani umeuza gari na hujaniambia? Kaniambia mimi sijauza gari.
Ni kama vile tu tunajuana.
Kama vile tunajuana.
Mimi nikuitisha gari uniambia hata iko place fulani.
Hata iko place chukua.
Mimi niende niuze.
Wewe ndio uuze.
Welcome back. You're watching the Lunchtime News. Before we get to sports, let's touch on business news. The State Department of Shipping and Maritime Affairs has embarked on a sensitization program for the youth to highlight job and business opportunities within the blue economy sector. Shipping and Maritime Affairs Principal Secretary Shadrach Mwadime says even though there are immense opportunities in the blue economy sector, most Kenyans only focus on fishing.
Kenya has been grappling with the issue of unemployment, with the youth being the most affected. This has promoted the State Department of Shipping and Maritime Affairs to roll out a sensitization program targeting those in areas rich in blue economy opportunities. The target is to highlight the job and business opportunities to the youth and drive a diversification shift from fishing.
We are looking for jobs in shipping companies, and therefore I'm talking about the international labor market available within the shipping sector in terms of cruise ships where we can engage graduates of hospitality courses. I'm talking about nautical science, those who have done nautical science and marine engineering who can be engaged as officers. We know the market is available for seafarers as it is currently, because in accordance with the statistics that we have, we need about 500,000 seafarers. We know there are countries in Southeast Asian continents where they have engaged their youth to get these employment opportunities. And therefore, we are not wrong in terms of our analysis that that is the way to go as it is currently.
The sensitization program involves recommendation of courses that the youth could pursue to acquire skills that will position themselves for the job market, both locally and internationally.
We want to sensitize, particularly those who are in high school, in terms of the courses that they can undertake. Here at Bandari Maritime Academy, we have Technical University, also where they can undertake these studies. We have Pioneer University where they can undertake, these studies, and many other maritime institutions where such studies can be undertaken. But more than that, we are telling graduates of various fields, various disciplines, that they too can be absorbed. Be it graduates of accounts, be it graduates of finance, actuarial science, so long as they undertake STCW, they can be absorbed in these shipping lines, particularly the cruise ships.
Mwadime says Kenya is in advanced talks with the countries along eastern coast to harmonize maritime laws. For Lunchtime News, I'm Abdulaziz Abeid.
In sports, KCB women's volleyball team intensified its training ahead of the 2023 Kenya Volleyball Federation League playoffs scheduled for October 2nd to 4th at the Kasarani Indoor Arena. The 2022 African Club champions will be attempting to capture the title that has eluded them for the past 15 years and keep close to lifting it, only to lose in the final to Kenya Pipeline. KCB finished second during the regular league season after collecting a total of 24 points as Pipeline again reigned supreme. KCB will begin their quest for the national title against Kenya Prisons on Monday, October 2nd, before playing DCI the following day, then wrap up the fixtures against sworn rivals Kenya Pipeline on Wednesday. Head coach Japheth Munala declared the squad ready for the playoffs. The final squad is expected to be named this weekend, with newly recruited Tanzania High School's Marianne Terry expected to make the cuts.
We are hopeful that the team is composed very well and we are going to win this championship.
We know they are going to perform well given a chance, and the morale for the team generally is high. We expect good performance and good results at the end.
The quarterfinals of the Rugby World Cup, thanks to Japan's 28-22 win over Samoa, which boosted England's own knockout chances. The results reduced England's pressure from the final pool game against the Samoans on 7th October and means England head coach Steve Borthwick could rest players for that game before a likely quarter-final against Fiji.
Japan saw off the Pacific Islanders with tries from Peter Labshin, Michael Leach and Kazuki Himeno, along with strong kicking by Rikia Masuda. Samoa, who had winger Ben Lam sent off, rallied late on but must now beat England for a chance of progressing. But this result means England cannot be overtaken at the top of Pool D. Samoa can no longer match their current total of 14 points, while Steve Borthwick's men have a superior head-to-head record over Japan and Argentina. The results reduce England's pressure from the final pool game against the Samoans on 7th of October and means that Borthwick could rest players for that game before a likely quarter-final against Fiji.
Britain's Andy Murray missed 3 match points as he suffered a first round 6-3, 5-7, 7-6 defeat by Alex de Minaur at the Tennis China Open. On Friday, British number 1 Cameron Norrie faces 5th seed Andy Rublev, while fellow Briton Dan Evans plays Italian 6th seed Jannik Sinner.
The former world number 1 Adi Mari lost 6-3, 5-7, 7-6 in a tightly contested match in Beijing.
Oh, that's a shame. Mari, I think,
Mari led 5-2 in that set and had match